all we came to be happy again.
Elliott here, Lazy Dogs Records, and this is a little potpourri video showing some recent acquisitions for the early fall, some book recommendations, and a little about some of the hardware changes I made in the last month or so. Start off with the vinyl, of course. Record Store Day, if you remember, had a big expanded edition of Dr. John's Sun, Moon, and Herbs album from the early 1970s. I think it was his second album. And instead of getting that, I got an original version of the album. Picked it up for $20. So instead of paying $60 to get all the extra whistles and bells, this was sealed for $20 on Discogs. Really great album cover. I love that. And this is a reissue from a few years ago. It's the hype sticker says collected limited edition high quality colored vinyl, and I know a lot of people like to see that colored vinyl, so I'll show you that. This is a really good album. I love Dr. John. I have some of his albums previous to this, but did not have this one at all. So there you go. This is original Atco in stereo, and I don't know, familiar reality reprise. I really like that. Black John the Conqueror, side one, song one is really killer. Just the mood Dr. John can create with his music is just to me fantastic. So this is a really good album, highly recommended for anyone. And like I say, you don't have to, if you want something in a really good condition, you don't have to search for that old original release and taking a chance that it will play well. You can get a new sealed copy of the reissue. And let's see what I've got next. Oh, this was a great edition. I pre-ordered this one a while back on Old Boy Records, and it was only like $26. So I went ahead and I got a t-shirt and some stickers along with it, and it was still a real bargain. But the John Prine Fair and Square album from 2005, I had the CD, and a couple of years after the CD came out, they did issue a vinyl version of it, but I just had the CD for a long time. So when they announced this release coming out, I pre-ordered it. They call this the Irish edition, I believe, and it comes in green and gold, which, that makes it special. It's the Irish edition and everything, and it's limited, I think, to 3,000 copies or something like that. So, like I say, $26, I think, is what this was. And already I've seen, they sold them all, and already I've seen people asking, 60 or more bucks for them. So, I don't know. I don't really like flippers, the idea of buying something for the sake of turning it around and flipping it because there's a limited quantity. But it's capitalism, so I guess I shouldn't complain. It's got all the albums on the original plus 4 additional songs added to it. Really good example of John's great songwriting. I'll show you the back there. And this was made when he was in his late 50s. So it shows that his songwriting prowess continued, well into his life. And of course, we saw that with the issue of his final album about a year before he passed away, and he was still strong in the lyrics at that time. And this has both the sentimental and the and the humorous within it, and it has both the the full band sound and the minimalistic acoustic guitar and vocals sound to it. So really good stuff. And let's see, what else did I get? Oh, here's from the Coleman collection. I picked up actually a special request. I emailed Mazzy and asked him if possibly in the Coleman collection that record was there, because I had looked high and low for this record and it was hard to find. The self-titled first release from Little Feat. A little bit different lineup, just a four-man lineup for that first album. And in fact, he did have it, and it turned out to be a promo copy. So, why is a promo copy special? I didn't know this for a long time, and someone explained to me that oftentimes, especially when it has promo on the label and stuff, the promo copies were the first ones run on a stamper. So, you prepare the stamper and you start running copies. And as the stamper, as you press more and more records, the stamper begins to wear down. And so if you get a run, one of the last ones, depending on how many they ran, one of the last ones stamper, it's not going to sound quite as good as those first few. So that's why people like the promos. I didn't know that until very recently. Of course, you get this. There's Coleman Burke's band leader in San Francisco. This came from his collection, and Mazzy wrote a little explanation of what this was all about. I think as I speak, probably, or soon after I get through taping this, Mazzy's having another sale. It's Saturday afternoon when I'm filming this. But he had this, and he said, "Yep, I can let you have it." So I got him to throw in one more record, and we made us a deal. Worked out really great for me. I already have this album. In fact, I have a couple of copies. One of them I had recently got and printed up, cleaned up, and gave to my daughter for her collection. But I didn't know my old copy of this album was dated back from '78 when this album first came out. Of course, Little Feat, Waiting for Columbus, with all those. Little Feat had so many great album covers. And this is a little worn, cover, not bad, but a little bit. But the vinyl plays excellent. And, I thought it may be an upgrade. That my vinyl from back in '78, may have some issues. That album got moved around a whole lot during my college years and stuff like that. And I always try to take care of my records, but you never know over time if some can get somewhat damaged. And then, so those two Little Feat albums, one I didn't have, and one, it's like, you can never have too many Little Feat albums, even if they're the same copy, same ones. And then he just threw in what I purchased, knowing how much I like country music, he threw this one in as a bonus. Now, I was so glad to get this. Strangers, of course, Merle Haggard's band. And this is on Capitol, Merle's label back then. This is a time when Merle had about 6 albums already under his belt. So he's not on this album. It's his band, The Strangers. Instrumental sounds of Merle Haggard. Pretty much, they're not doing Haggard songs other than they do Mama Tried. Instrumental of Mama Tried on the first one, the first song on side one, and then after that it's just a kind of a potpourri of different things that highlight the instrumental prowess of his band, both individually and collectively. And so 3 albums from the Coleman collection. I was glad to get that. I'll keep those postcards in those records, and one day when I'm gone and my daughter's searching, going through my record collection, deciding what to do with the estate, all those headaches, hopefully she'll have a little time and she'll sit down as she's going through those records and pull that little card out and read about Coleman and how this came from that collection. It gives it a history. History is important. And the last record I'll show you that I purchased this month or so is a 1990 release for the closest thing I have to a hometown rock and roll hero, Link Ray. He was born and lived his childhood till about his teenage years, about 15 miles from where I live here in Harnett County. Link Ray, this is called Hillbilly Wolf, and it's Missing Links Volume 1. It has music from very early on. Lucky Ray's on here, the Ray Men, Ray Vernon Ray, and of course Link Ray mostly. But different configurations he and his brothers had in some early recordings they made. It's good. I listened to it the other day and really enjoyed hearing it. It's he evolved over the time, but you can kind of hear that evolution gradually in these recordings. So didn't buy nearly as many albums because I was purchasing hardware a lot this month. I've got 4 dual turntables that I've worked on to various extents over recently, learning more and more how to repair them. I know how to service them now, and learning more and more how to repair things on them. And I've been kind of switching them out. Put this 1229 up, use it for a while. I've got a 1019 downstairs in the basement with an Ortofon, a Super OM10 cartridge on there, which just sounds wonderful. Wonderful. You'd think a 1965, 1966 turntable would have its limitations, but it really sounds good. I'm running it instead of through the built-in phono amp on my receiver. One of my recent hardware purchases was a phono amp of the Shits Manny. I got used, picked it up from Davis Winchester, and so it's running from that dual 1019 turntable into the phono amp, the Shits phono amp, and then into the amplifier, and then out into my speakers. And I'm convinced now. I was very skeptical that going from an internal phono amp, a built-in phono amp on a receiver, to an external one would make a difference. But I'm a believer now. It really does make a big difference in the definition of the music. I'm a believer. Okay, I was a skeptic, but I'm not anymore. Now here I've got a Cambridge Audio Solo preamp that I'm using here. Now I picked that up as a reconditioned, probably just one somebody bought from Cambridge, decided they didn't like it, and they sent it back. They tested it and said it's still good, but can't sell it for new anymore. And I bought it directly. Well, I bought it on eBay, but it was from the Cambridge Corporation, the company. It wasn't through a middleman, and paid $115 plus tax for it, and they normally sell for about $180. So I thought it was a good deal. And again, just like that, the Manny, this Solo really enhances what's coming out of the speakers. So between my various turntables I've been working on and the preamps, that's pretty much occupied my time and attention in the last month or so. So that's why I only have a few records here. Also, I've been reading some pretty good books I'll share with you. This one may have limited appeal, but if you because it's very specific, but it's string bands of the North Carolina Piedmont, and it's by Bob Carlin. And string bands have been pretty much considered the authentic stuff's pretty much been considered the stuff in the mountains. And, the stuff that came out, down the mountain into Piedmont of places like North Carolina and Georgia and South Carolina, Virginia, hasn't enjoyed the esteem that was supposed to be, the authentic and the undiluted and stuff like this. This is a really good book about the different bands and artists that came up playing in the Piedmont, from people that were just playing for corn shuckings and school dances, all the way up to professionals that were playing on the radio and touring the region. Very interesting book about how musicians made a living, how they earned their income. Very different than it was just a few years ago, but a lot of similarities beginning to emerge now between how an artist can make a living as a professional musician today and how they did it back in the 1920s, 30s, 40s, into the early 50s. Very, very interesting. So string bands in the North Carolina Piedmont. It would, even if you're not from North Carolina, it would be interesting because it would be similar to what you would find in other places as well. And this book I haven't quite finished yet. Highly recommend it. The Birth of Loud. And this tells the parallel stories and interwoven stories of Les Paul and Leo Fender. And it's basically about the solid body electric guitar, how it got started and evolved thanks to Les Paul and Leo Fender and others as well, but the emphasis is on those two. And it's written by Ian S. Port. Hold that up for you so you can see that again. So this is, I think it's 2019 when this came out. Picked it up at the Poet Library. Very, very good story. Learning a lot about the technology and the backstories on these people. Leo Fender and Les Paul, very different individuals, but they were actually friendly, maybe not close friends, but friendly, and they exchanged a lot of ideas at one time, and then they kind of were each kind of stealing from each other a little bit, and both in a race to develop a good quality solid body electric guitar, because the hollow body electrics, which basically, at the beginning were nothing more than a pickup mounted on an acoustic guitar, even as they evolved, there were always issues, especially with feedback and not being able to obtain a large amount of volume, which you would need as rock and roll began to emerge. But good books. So some records, some books, a little about the hardware I've been dealing with lately, and I will draw this to a conclusion now. Everybody, I hope everybody's doing well. Cold and flu season is approaching, so get your flu shot if you can. Don't wait too long to get it. We want to avoid crowding the emergency rooms and the hospital beds so that other people can be attended to. So everybody take care. Remember, be kind to your neighbors. Folks, it's a small world. We're all neighbors. Take care.